All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of MPL. Today, our conversation is going to be focused on the immigrant experiences with respect to our own career journeys and our professional lives. We know that this is something that some people really, really do struggle with, and there's a lot of stigma and pressure that goes behind it. So, joining us today are two amazing guests. You might recognize them from the infamous platform TikTok. I don't want to introduce them because I don't think I'll be able to do them enough justice. So, I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay, I'll go first. Hello, my name's Rawah, and I'm from Sydney, Australia. I've been a teacher for 10 years, and I guess you might recognize me slightly, but more so my father, who has become this gigantic TikTok star who I sort of never accounted for. And I pretty much follow him around and I just, with a camera, and I just film him saying and doing things. And I am also a writer. My young adult book, debut book, just got released 18 days ago. And so I'm super excited about that. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
I guess I'll go. My name is Emad. I am going into my third year of university studying commerce at the University of Toronto in Canada. And I'm studying business. And recently I've dabbled into the world of TikTok. You might know me from some of the Mufti Kermit TikToks or some of the Haram Police TikToks. But it is what it is. In my free time, I like to play a lot of sports. I like to cook, and I'm super grateful to be invited onto this podcast.
Amazing. So we're just gonna get started by sort of laying out the context. Do you guys want to just maybe briefly talk about like what field you're in or what field that you're trying to get into, like what you're studying? I know Rawah just mentioned that she's a teacher, but maybe she can talk a little bit about like the journey there and like the rest of us as well.
I studied at Western Sydney University, Sydney, Australia, a Bachelor of Arts, and then I went on to do my Masters of Teaching. And then that was a bit, I don't know about university in other parts of the world, but I was a big fan of university. It's just really rigid and there's not enough flexibility and creativity, which is funny enough why I went into years later into writing. But later on in my years, I got offered a scholarship to complete my doctorate in education, which is what I'm actually doing right now. I finished a year. I've got 2 years left to write my thesis. But I've put it on hold because to focus on my writing, and I also do creative writing workshops in different schools. So that's pretty much my university journey.
Wow.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'm studying commerce at the University of Toronto, but more specifically, I'm doing a management specialist and a focus in marketing and leadership. Those are just two things that I'm interested in, but I hope to pursue a career in management consulting. And what basically management consulting is basically they're kind of like the doctors of the business world. They go into some businesses and they help solve some problems with some C-suite executives. And that's all that I really want to do, is that I really want to be able to be in a position where I'm giving advice to people in that sort of business atmosphere. And I want to be able to travel as well. And they have a lot of different travel opportunities. So that's mainly one of the reasons why I want to go down the career path of management consulting. Obviously, your career path is never really linear, so you never know what can happen. But as far as I know right now, those are my plans.
Awesome. I think I could go next. Similar to Emad, I am also studying business or commerce or whatever other fancy term you want to call it. I am in Canada. I'm studying at the University of Western Ontario at the Ivy School of Business. And unlike Emad, I don't really have like a specific like linear path like in my mind kind of carved out. It's more just like I'm open to a lot of different experiences, and hopefully we'll see where it takes me.
My mom shut off the light on me. Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Yasmin. I am also on the MPL podcast. And what else? I go to Western and I'm studying accounting, but I hate accounting and I want to become a social worker. So yeah, that's my vibe. I like speaking up for people and everything like that. Yeah, I don't like sitting on a desk and adding up numbers and all that kind of stuff. No, thank you. But yeah.
A lot of future accountants are gonna come at you, but we might have to turn off comments for this episode.
No hate. Me personally,
There's full on slander going against all the accountants that are watching this right now.
Wait, Imad, are you planning into going into accounting? No, right? So we're Gucci. Yeah, we're Gucci.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Oh God. Okay.
Don't let Deloitte see this video. Okay, now that we have sort of that context in mind, I just wanted to ask you guys, what are some of the pressures that you guys face both like internally and externally, be it from family, friends, or even battling some like preconceived notions or stigmas when you guys were choosing like a particular post-secondary education to pursue, or now that you're, sort of in a career already or targeting to go in a particular career?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that a little bit. I come from a background of like people who are pretty educated, I'd say. So both my parents actually went to medical school. Like both my grandparents were have university degrees and stuff. So I come from that background that's very, very like educated. So my parents always instilled this value into my head where it's like education is one of your top priorities. Like your dean and your education are very, very high when it comes to priority. So there's a lot of pressure there, the bar was set really high, especially with them being immigrants coming and settling here, and the way they've made it, regardless of all of the hurdles that they've had to jump over. The bar has been set. So when I was choosing an institution to go for my post-secondary education, I think prestige was definitely a factor that came into it. So I chose to go to the University of Toronto because it's one of the highest ranked schools in the world, and it definitely has that brand name that comes beside it. And my brothers and my sister as well also went to pretty prestigious educational institutions as well. So just being the youngest of 4 siblings, I felt that there was that pressure from both my parents and my siblings. But I feel like there's more to that, but I think the brand name was the biggest factor when it came to choosing my post-secondary education and just raising the bar, or just trying to pass that bar that my parents and my siblings have set for the family.
So did you ever consider like an alternative career path that was possibly like either you shut it down because of like all these high expectations, or did someone like overtly just shut it down before you decided to pursue like, or business and management consulting?
Yeah, absolutely. So my parents always wanted me to be like a lawyer. I never wanted myself to like be in that like cutthroat workhorse environment where you're kind of getting swamped in paperwork and stuff. It's a great career field. It pays well. It's really, really gratifying. But I just didn't think it was for me. And I really like business a lot more than law in my opinion. And then obviously both my parents went down the medical path. So there's also that kind of unspoken pressure to become a doctor and to follow their footsteps. But from a very young age, biology just didn't interest me at all. And then engineering and business was kind of like the leftover out of the two, out of the 4 fields that you're allowed to go down. So I ended up just choosing business because I felt that I was more interested in it than physics and chemistry and that sort of thing.
My journey is a little bit different to Emad's. I come from a family of 7, and I'm number 6 in the family. And so the first 5, I call them my brothers and sisters, didn't go to university. And my father's really, really big on education, and so is my mother. But they didn't go. They chose to go down the business path and the trade path and have their own sort of, they have their own success in their own right. And so when it came to me, I actually didn't want to go to university. I didn't want to study. I wasn't that child at school that cared about grades or marks or tests. Actually, it was more, I don't know, this is really strange that I'm a teacher and I'm a writer now, but I was the kid, the cheeky kid playing pranks or just going to school to hang out with my friends. I was the kid that wanted to study or read or do any of that stuff. And I didn't have that pressure like Emad to have parents who have, education and it's in the family. It's not in my family. But my father, like I said, was big on education and pretty much said to me, I would really love for one of 7 to actually go to university. And he gave me those soft eyes, those puppy dog eyes, and I was like, fine, okay, I'll go. That was my journey to university. There was no sort of pressure, so to speak. The choice was mine at the end of the day, but highly encouraged. My father really instilled in me the idea that a woman should be independent, particularly financially independent. With Islamically, unfortunately, the divorce rate in our communities isn't the best. It's spiking pretty much, and he doesn't believe that a woman's worth is based on a man. So if the relationship were to break up, what am I going to do? How am I going to support myself? So my father really said to me that my purpose should be found outside of a man, outside of a job. It should be, I should be able to stand on my 2 feet. And especially in the harsh environment, particularly the world that we live in surrounding Muslim women, visibly Muslim women, it's difficult to live. And so my father said, if you have a degree in your hand, you dictate your life and nobody can tell you where to come and where to go. This is yours. And so that was my journey into university. There wasn't any pressures, but I did feel the idea that I wanted to make my parents proud. The 4 years that I was there, I didn't really like it much. And this is really strange. Though I didn't grow up with the culture of getting married because my sisters were older in age when they got married, but I wanted to get married. I was like, I finished school at 20 or whatever it was. I was like, I want to get married. And my dad's like, the only way you can get married is once you have that degree, and then I don't care afterwards what you do. So it's really strange that the patriarchal system in the Arab world, my father broke all that sort of stereotype and was like, no, men are, sometimes great and sometimes they're not, but you should have that degree. You should have some independence to dictate where you want your life to go.
Wow, that was very inspirational. For me, it was like, so mine was something similar. My father did not come from a very educated family, but he got an education. And my mom, she did not get an education at all. And when I was born and everything like that, it was my mom who raised me. And so basically, there was a lot of pressure of being successful and getting one of the 4 degrees, and it's still there. And I'm still struggling. But so I have 4 older siblings, mashallah, very, very successful. And she wants me to be like them, copy paste, make 6 figures and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I want to do this. But basically, when I entered going from grade 12 to university, my mom was like, you have to get into nursing. If you don't get into nursing, you're done. And I'm like, okay. I didn't get into nursing. And it was a lot of pressure because she's like, well, what are you going to do now? Now you're going to have to go to school for even longer. And how are you going to be successful and everything like that? And then I'm like, okay. And then, so the other 2 options I had were business and social sciences, so I can pursue my dream, which is to become a social worker. And she was like, no, business. And I'm like, okay. So I go into business, but I also took social work courses, and I really, really, really loved social work. And I went through a lot last year in my third year of university, and like my family finally saw that like I wasn't doing well, and like I was literally dying through my accounting courses and all that kind of stuff. But they finally saw it, and they're like, okay, you really love social work and everything like that, and so now I'm in my fourth year. I'm taking social work classes along with my business courses to get into the School of Social Work. So yeah, I faced. I don't want to talk about the details, but it's been a roller coaster. But you just gotta keep believing in yourself, and you'll get there. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess for me, I feel like the pressures were on and off. I think they were definitely sort of instilled as like, the whole 4 degrees thing. I wasn't as explicit as maybe in some of your cases, but it was definitely there. Because, randomly at the dinner table, your dad will be like, oh, so and so's son just got into like engineering school, or so and so's son just, graduated medical school. And you're just like, okay, can I have a chicken? Like, no. There were definitely subtle sort of like hints for sure. I think as I got older, I don't know, like I was quite different from my siblings in that alhamdulillah, like everyone says I'm a bit more mature in my thinking. So I think they sort of knew that my priorities in life weren't going to be making like the most money or whatever. It was definitely having success in the back of my mind, but I think for me it was trying to balance like the deen aspect as well as trying to be successful in whichever way I saw fit. And I actually wanted to become a doctor for the longest time, and that's sort of why I entered university in the sciences. But when I was considering that, another profession I considered was nursing. Now, as a man considering nursing, you can imagine sort of like the backlash and like what people might say. And this was actually overt. Like I remember when I was going into grade 12, just thinking of different programs. I'm like, there's like the science program, there's like this nursing program. And my dad's like, oh, nursing. Okay. And then my mom, she straight up like, no, like, what are you thinking of doing nursing for? Like, that's for girls. And I'm just like, no, but like, like you don't have to go through the whole like 8-year process of, becoming a doctor, and then you don't have to worry about like residency. You still get to, like help people and all that. She's like, no, but like, what are people gonna say? And like this and that. She's a lot more open-minded now, alhamdulillah. Maybe it's because I'm not in nursing, I don't know. But that was definitely something that was that was something that I faced, and I think that a lot of other male figures and female figures face when they go into other dominated sort of industries. Like I know women face that when they're doing engineering. Men might face that when they're trying to do like social work or nursing. So it is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, that's just sort of like my experiences. So we wanted to kind of use this as a platform to transition into the next thing, do you guys think that there's sort of like a certain notion that whatever you're doing, and I guess Rawah talked about this a little bit, like whatever you're doing has to ultimately lead to like a goal, and that goal has to be like getting married and having kids, and then like it all revolves around like social status and all of that fun stuff. So has that been something that has been either implicitly or explicitly kind of in your face, and has that been something that you guys have thought about or considered as you progress through your journey?
If I may add, like, yes and no. So Faison, you talked a little bit about like what will people say. So I feel like that pressure also, like from other people and your parents saying what will people say about you, also factors in to like the career path that you go down, because ultimately you want to face as little like backlash as possible usually. So I think, like, just to add on to your point before, like that pressure from your family and from other people is also a big pressure that a lot of people in our generation face when it comes to their career path, and it also factors into like their goals and stuff. And I definitely think that being financially stable is a huge goal that everyone should have. Being financially independent, like Rawah said before, is super important and is a big factor into my career path. So I think being financially stable, being able to support my future wife in marriage, to support my household, to support my kids financially. I want to be able to live a life where myself and my kids can live financially comfortable. So I think going down a career path that pays well was definitely a big factor when it comes to choosing a career path. But I wouldn't say that it dictates it dictates it. You know, like if there's a lot of like stigmas and pressures in like especially in a Pakistani culture where I come from, where it's like, oh, if you're a doctor, like that holds high prestige and high status, right? But I think more for me, it was just a priority of being financially stable and financially secure in my life.
I think for me, like I said before, my father, really instilled in me the values of independence, and which is in the Arab culture. I'm Lebanese. It's not common to have a male tell his daughter that she should be everything that she should be without the pressures of marriage and a man. I truly believe my father is he's one of a kind. He's so unique in that aspect. And so I was very lucky in that my father, from such a young age, instilled in me the values of religion, but the values of culture. So the idea of people are going to say this or people are going to talk, I never heard that from my father. It was rather whatever career path you choose or whatever decision you make in your life, remember God's watching. So it was always God's watching. It wasn't Halimi from next door is watching. It was always the religious aspect. And so as long as religion was okay with it, then it doesn't matter what anybody else thought and said. I don't come from a family of status in that both my mother and my father were very poor. They came from poor villages in Lebanon. And so when they came to Australia, it wasn't so much try to make it financially, and it was really like to be, I know this sounds really cliche, but it was to be happy, like trying to find a goal to be happy. And I remember in the 6th year of my teaching, because I taught for about 10 years, I was miserable. I didn't want to do teaching anymore. I felt as though I wanted to make a difference and a change, and that the 30 kids in my classroom weren't enough anymore. I wanted to be of service to my whole community. And my father, and I was earning, a really good amount of money because I was doing other things in teaching that allowed me to earn more money. And my father said to me, "Are you happy?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Leave." And I was like, "But, I studied for 4 years. I have my master's, and how am I going to make money? That's how I make money." And he's like, "Don't worry about money. I'll support you. Life is too short to worry about, what people say, the status, prestige of communities." He said, "They're going to talk anyway, regardless. You can be at the top of the mountain and they'll say you're looking down upon us." So I was very lucky that any career path that I was going to choose, that I was going to have the support of my family. And really, truly, my family only mattered to me. I don't care about anybody else in the world except for my family. And so I am who I am because I was allowed to be who I am. My father never chastised me as a woman because, I have a degree or I'm 31 and I'm not married. And my father still says to me today, do not feel the pressure of you're in your 30s now and you're not married. It's really bad, but he's like, marriage, men are headaches. So I don't know if that's his ploy to get me to stay with him at home or if really men are headaches. He's just like, he's like, you don't want to be on your deathbed and go, I did everything that everybody else wanted me to do. I didn't take that photography class. I didn't become that social worker. I didn't become, that writer because I was so focused on what I thought I should be. And he said to me that when you are on your deathbed, all the passion and your skills that you have will die with you. And you didn't utilize them. And because you didn't utilize them, the community that you're in didn't benefit from them. And so unfortunately, the passion that you have is going to die with you and someone could have benefited. So I live my life doing what I want with the happiness and the consciousness of knowing that my parents and my family are behind me.
Wow. Mashallah, mashallah, mashallah.
You should just do the talking from here onwards, because this could turn into like a 30-minute motivational video.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
literally, like,
She might just have to take over the podcast, you know?
yeah, man.
You know,
I'm coming to
if
Australia.
If my father wasn't working, I would have called him in and be like, "Hey, Dad, do a 5-minute segment or something."
That would have been an amazing cameo. That would have been great.
Yeah. Yo, I would love to meet your father. Yo, next podcast, literally.
We have to do a part 2 just to meet her
Yeah.
father.
Inshallah.
Yes.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
If I may add to that, I echo a lot of Rawah's points. Like, my parents did the same thing, where it's just like, yeah, like other people may be talking and maybe putting that pressure on you, but like it doesn't really matter as long as like religion comes first and family comes before anything else, right? So I really want to like my parents didn't pressure me to do a lot, like go down this career path at all. I just feel that any like goals that revolved around prestige and status, they came intrinsically, you know, they came out of my own desires and my own goals in life to be financially stable and to live like a successful like life and have a successful career and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I would like to add something. Wait, Yasmin, did you want to say something before?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think for me, like this is constant internal struggle of you know, pursuing what your passions are and what you like versus like being able to put food on the table at some point in the future. Right. And like that's not to say that like the path that I'm on right now, it's not something I dislike or anything. I think it's something that I learn a lot from. But that being said, like I don't think looking at Excel sheets like, you know, motivates me. Like I get up and I want to do formulas on Excel. Like that, like realistically, that's not what happens. Right. And so I think people sort of fall into this trap of like thinking of them as binary. It's like either I'm going to really do what I enjoy or I'm just going to hate myself. But I don't think it's like that. I think it's sort of like a spectrum, right? And I don't know if this is a fair example to give, but like this right now, like this podcast is something I really like wanted to do, and this is sort of like a dream that I had along with Yasmin and like our other two co-hosts like a year ago. And I could easily just be watching Netflix right now, but you know, like this is something I really wanted to do, and this is something that we did and we're doing right now. And so the point of me saying that is if there's things that you like, in my opinion, they don't necessarily have to be your profession. As long as you feel that fire in some way, shape, or form and keep you going, I think that is definitely important. That being said, all the better if that is your profession or if you can have that be a larger part of your life, because realistically, you don't want to be working like 80 hours a week and then like you're only happy like 5 hours during the whole week because you're really doing something you like. So that balance is definitely important. And I think thinking of it as a binary isn't really helpful.
Wow. Y'all have like really nice inspirational, motivational things to say, and then there's just gonna be me coming with the I don't know what to say, but basically for me it was like unfortunately the community that I'm part of, it's very cultural, and I'm gonna say it's very toxic because it's all about like, oh, what are people gonna say, that kind of stuff. And if you don't have a certain type of degree and you in your future when the time is for like proposal time, no one's gonna come and ask for your hand because you have a social sciences degree, not a health sciences, general sciences, or medical sciences degree. So it's very unfortunate, and that's also the one pressure, like one of the pressures that I had to face, because I was like, okay, like, is this literally what my future is like dependent on? Like I have to have this nice degree just so I can be happy in the future. But then I realized, I'm like, that's not my happiness. That's not what defines who I am, and that's not what defines who I want to be. So yeah, it's been unfortunate for me in that case, and it's constantly in my head that what are people gonna say, and each action that I do now in my head, it's like, what are people gonna say, and in my heart, I don't care, but it's still in the back of my mind. And yeah, so even though I'm on this path of going into social work now, in my head I'm like, what are people going to say that I'm staying in university undergrad for 3 extra years or 2 extra years? What are people going to say?
But I think to add on to that, like, I think it's just an unfortunate reality that a lot of the people in our generation face is that pressure of what are people going to say, and and a lot of the times it's culture first over religion, and that line between culture and religion is not divided at all. It's kind of like intertwined, because a lot of the cultures that we live in or that we come from have religion embedded into the culture. So I think that's just an unfortunate reality that people have to live with these pressures coming from their parents and the people around them, that gives off a lot of toxic vibes, and it ultimately ends up being like detrimental to the mentality that a lot of us have in our generation, you know.
I just want to add to that. When I was 26 and I did what I guess everybody else wanted me to do, I had the same thought, Yasmin, that you had in your head, that every decision I'm making now in my life, they're always going to be in the back of my mind. But my father said something to me that was really important, and he said, when I was 26, I disclosed the information that I really want to be a writer. And writing in the Arab culture is it's very rare. It's almost a myth to have a Muslim woman to be a writer. And he said to me, and I said, but like, I'm 26, by the time I get the book out, it's going to be a few years, I'm going to be 30. Like, it's just a lot. And I know what people are going to say, that she's left, her degree. And he said, but you're going to be 30 anyway. So why not be 30 and happy and do what you want to do, instead of being 30 and miserable? Time is always going to go by. People are always going to talk. That will never, ever change. So this idea, Yasmin, for you to do something and expect people's thumbs up, it's never going to happen. And once I understood that, it was almost like my father said, go forth and conquer. People are going to talk. So you're never going to satisfy people's expectations. And why should you? Who are they to you? They've never walked a mile in your shoes. They don't know anything about your life. They don't know family context. They don't know any of the struggles. And unfortunately, it even sometimes comes from your own family. They have these certain expectations of you. But that's their job in a really weird way. Their job is to have expectations of you. And that's just the way it is. But I truly believe that nobody goes through life or understands life the way you do. And so, I don't know, it makes me sad when I hear people, live their life based on people who already don't like you. Not that they don't like you, but they're not going to be there when you finish your degree and clap for you. Like, they're not going to do that. Yeah. So if they're not going to be there, so no, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no worries. No, and like, adding on to what you said, like, thinking about since day one, people have always been talking. They've always been pointing fingers. And I'm like, why should I even care? Right? And the thing is that the thing that like pisses me off the most is that they're constantly pointing the finger at me or like other people, but they're not pointing the finger at themselves and not realizing that they got like their own mess. Like, literally focus on yourself. But yeah.
If I may add on to that, like, sometimes for me, when I get these like certain comments from certain people, I like to personally take a step back and just look at it from their perspective. Sometimes it's good to picture yourself in other people's shoes and maybe ask yourselves why they're saying that. Are they saying this like, is it coming from the heart? Do they want really what's best for you? Is that why they're saying it? Or are they actually saying it because of pressures from other people, right? So I think sometimes, like, I really feel like I'm in a situation where, my parents are saying something that may seem like somewhat not really hurtful, but like, they may downplay me or whatever based off of some decisions that I make, but I know that it'll be from the heart. I know they want what's best for me, and that's why they're saying it. And sometimes I look at their advice that they give me, and I really, really think about it to see if it's, like, I can actively listen to their advice, and I can choose to either take it or not take it. But regardless, I should be able to acknowledge it fully just to show them their respect as well, right?
I remember Rawah mentioned something earlier, which was like, when you're on your deathbed, like you don't want to let your like passions and like dreams and like purpose like die with you. I just want to use that like deathbed example because sometimes when we try to do things for other people, even if it's people who are really close to us, such as our own mothers and fathers, something that this was like a random thought that came into my mind when I was in grade 12, just thinking about like what I want to do. I was like, let's say I'm in second year and like, God forbid, like my parents pass away. Like, then what happens? Like, does that mean I am now going to restart university and then do what I want? Or like, am I just going to continue this? Like, what happens at that point? Because there's no longer anyone to please and you're already down this path. So it's like, in like a very convoluted way, it's like you have to be a little bit selfish in that point, in that sense. So yeah, just wanted to kind of throw that out there. It's a bit of a dark thought to have, I will say, but helpful nonetheless, in my opinion. But yeah, I guess we wanted to end this conversation off by, this is honestly just like an opinion. So no right or wrong answers, but do you guys think there's sort of like a gender component when it comes to like these pressures and whatnot? Like, like Yasmin said, sometimes the thought of like, oh, if I pursue like a certain career is someone going to ask for my hand? Or if I spend too long, just grinding it out, like, am I going to be too old? Is there like an expiry date on me? Or like, I know that's a thing that a lot of females, especially in the Muslim community, kind of unfortunately go through, and the gossiping aunties obviously don't help either. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Expiry. I'm on the shelf life. They put me at the back in stock apparently when you're 31. But I don't know what it is. I think it's because I've gone through a lot of hardship and I've gone through the idea of doing things because I was thought that that's what a woman should do, right? Being a teacher and etc. Because I've gone through really dark times, there's no way I'm going to go back to that. And so when people look at me and go, wow, she's changed her whole career path at 30, shouldn't she be focusing on getting married and starting a family? Because biologically that time is ticking, that clock is ticking. But I think, and I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't sound so full of myself, trying to humbly say this, I don't think anybody understands the value of valuing yourself. They don't get that. I think, another dark thought is that I'm going to be buried by myself. Everyone's going to die alone, whether you're in a relationship or not. And I think the worst feeling in the world, in the whole entire world, is to be with someone and feel lonely. What is the point of that? And I take marriage really seriously. I don't think that, I don't know, sometimes I look at other people and it's so easy for them to bounce off relationships. And I'm just like, this is the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And forget me, because I've lived my life, but my kids, they deserve to have somebody to look up to. And so I always found people look down upon me because I'm the career woman, and it's not career woman, it's just I'm the happy woman. I'm just trying to pursue something that makes me happy. And I think in terms of culture, they can't understand or grip the idea that a woman is happy without the man providing for her. And I'm not one of those people that doesn't want to get married. I do. I want to get married and have children, but I'm not going to settle. I have standards. And if you do not meet those standards, then I'm not going to get married. And so it's always the religious people that say to me, you should get married, you should get married. Why aren't you married? It's always my fault, something that I'm doing. That's why I'm 31 and not married. And I feel a little bit upset for them, because if you're so religious and connected to God, then surely you'd understand that it's God that wills the Prince Charming, so to speak, to come along and knock at my door, not go through my window. And so I forgot the question because I'm talking and I'm rambling on. But along the lines of But don't think that I would have done myself any favors if I had listened and got married at 22 or 23. Not that there's anything wrong with marriage, there isn't. I think why people get married is something that is very wrong in the world that we live in today. I think they have a different concept or idea of what marriage should and be like.
Yeah, I think those are amazing points. Oftentimes, most of the time, I would say, is that marriage and your career path are often put in the same bubble. They're often like intertwined, especially culturally. And I think that it's awesome that you're kind of like breaking that barrier and you're trying to like denormalize that sort of thing. But I definitely think there is a gender component when it comes to like your career path and stuff. Not more towards like my career path or myself or my experience. I felt that way, but I definitely feel that women are way more pressured than men in our society to get married and to settle down. And, you know, they're pressured to also have a degree, to settle into a career, and then also at the same time have children, be a nurturing mother, and do all the household chores. And that's just what's expected of them in society. And I think that's a horrible thing to normalize. You know, I think women should be just as independent as us. Yes, they have certain qualities that men don't have when it comes to nurturing their children and stuff. But I definitely think that women are a lot more pressured than us men when it comes to their career path, and like they're kind of judged over every single little thing that they do when it comes to their career path, where men just have that in general. I'm saying men just have that flexibility.
I agree. I think I think the best way I can put it is men are expected to be super women, and I feel like women are expected to be like super women, and men are for some reason sort of like almost depicted as like robotic in a way, because it seems like you said, like, you know, the typical like expectations, like, yeah, she needs to have like 2 degrees, supermodel body, you know, like making 6 figures, all by the age of like 18, coming from like a wealthy family, you know, like yada 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 yada. And then the guy is just like, oh, you need to make like a ton of money, like don't really have any emotions, like, you know, like that's not your style, like that's not your place, like don't worry, you know, she'll take care of the kids, like this and this and that. So it's just like really weird. And I think like Rawah put it perfectly. It's like this dichotomy between like culture and religion. I guess that's what it boils down to. And I think like overcoming that is sort of like, it is really tough. And I guess it's based on like individuals, and hopefully people have the courage to kind of like overcome that barrier, because it is a really big barrier that is hindering a lot of just potential in our Muslim communities. So,
I
yeah,
really want to go to Australia.
Yeah, we should do this in person one day.
Yeah, in Australia.
That would be.
Sydney.
I was actually supposed to go.
Great.
I was supposed to go on exchange to Singapore, and one of my travel destinations was going to be Australia. But like, I'm kind of scared of all the bugs and the spiders, to be honest.
No, they don't believe in all that stuff. That's so.
How can you not believe in it? I mean, there's like giant spiders there. Come on.
No, it's not. It's like, okay, yes, I have a spider in my room somewhere right now, but they're not. I don't know how to say it. Once you coexist with danger, and it's nice because sometimes I get a call from my friends that are like, yeah, there's a brown snake in the yard, so you can't come over.
Oh my God, I would freak out.
Yeah, I hate snakes, but it's very normal. Like it's not what you think, because I feel like the outside world exaggerates it, because it's not like that. But yes, it is like that. So
wait, are your spiders really like this big, like as like a hand?
Yeah. I was driving once. Yeah, I was driving back from school. I don't get scared of spiders. I hold on my hands. I don't care. And I was driving, and it was this big on my windscreen. And I was like, okay. And I just picked it up and put it next to me. And I was like, okay. I don't get scared of spiders.
Dude, that's
okay. I'm not coming.
Yo, I don't know about Australia now.
It's beautiful. The weather's amazing. It's always incredible. People are so laid back. It's awesome. Like I love Sydney. It's really cool.
Canada's a great country.
Hopefully you can come to Canada too.
I really want to go to Canada. I'm actually serious. I was supposed to go to Turkey and Canada and Lebanon. etc. But then COVID hit, so everything got cancelled.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
unfortunate.
Come to
Canada's
Canada
amazing.
and then we can
The
chill.
weather sucks in the winter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It sucks. Like some people like the winter. Like I'm a huge fan of the winter. I just hate walking outside in the winter because
Yeah.
your toes freeze. But like I think like the weather's kind of mild in the summer, and then just like I don't know, just like the Muslim, especially in Toronto, like the Muslim community is like really popping. Like it's like super comfortable here as a Muslim, to be honest.
Oh, also,
Yeah.
Sydney's like that too. We have like it's so normal, like because that like the harbour bridge and the opera house and etc. are like 20 minutes from where I live, and 20 minutes from where I live is just like all Muslims everywhere. It's just
That's
I
awesome.
don't feel it's really cool. I really like it.
Thank you guys for listening to this conversation. We hope it was fruitful for some, if not all of you. Just kind of listening to our experiences. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on like our social media, and follow Emad and Rawah on their social media as well. And Rawah actually has a book coming out, or I think she already has it published. So go check that out. I will not lie. I still have to check it out, but I will. I promise. I promise. When part 2 is out, we'll have a book club discussion, and then we can also have a special guest in your amazing TikTok performer who happens to live with you. But yeah, we're gonna end it off, and we'll see you in the next one. See ya.
Okay, assalamualaikum. There we go.